The studio lights gleamed brightly across the familiar courtroom set, illuminating the polished mahogany bench where Judge Judith Scheindlin, better known to the world as Judge Judy, was about to take her seat. The audience, a mixture of casual fans and curious first-timers, whispered excitedly. For many, this was more than just a legal proceeding. It was entertainment, a clash of egos, and a stage where truth and sharp wit collided. But today, something unusual was brewing. The plaintiff, a woman in her mid-30s named Rachel, sat nervously at the podium. She clutched a small folder of papers, evidence she had carefully collected, and glanced toward the door, as if hoping the man she had brought to court wouldn't show up at all. That man was Tyler Grant, her former roommate, business partner, and, as she described him in her claim, a habitual scam artist. Tyler strutted into the courtroom with the kind of cocky swagger that immediately caught everyone's attention. His suit jacket was unbuttoned, his tie loose, and his smirk wide. He looked less like a defendant about to face judgment and more like a comedian preparing to roast the very judge he was supposed to respect. "Mr. Grant, please come forward," the bailiff instructed. Tyler winked at the audience as if they were his fans. He leaned into the podium like it was a microphone and muttered loud enough for several to hear, "This should be fun." Rachel shook her head. She had warned her friends that Tyler had no respect for authority. But even she hadn't expected him to walk in as though the entire courtroom existed for his amusement. Moments later, the door behind the bench opened, and Judge Judy entered. The bailiff's voice rang out, "All rise." The audience stood. Judy took her seat, her gaze already sharp, as though she could sense the defiance lingering in the air. She tapped her gavel lightly. "You may be seated," she said. Then, her eyes swept across the room, landing on Rachel and Tyler. "Let's get this over with. Who's the plaintiff?" Rachel's voice trembled slightly as she introduced herself and explained that she was suing Tyler for $4,800, money she claimed he had stolen from their short-lived online business venture. Before Judy could even respond, Tyler chuckled. "Stolen?" he repeated, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "That's a funny word for bad investment." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Tyler shrugged, flashing his smirk again. "All I'm saying, Your Honor, is Rachel here didn't know what she was doing. She wanted to play entrepreneur, and I, being the generous soul that I am, helped her. It's not my fault if she lost money." Rachel shook her head, tears threatening to form. "He's lying. He took the money and spent it on himself, on parties, clothes, even a new watch. I have the receipts." "Oh, please," Tyler scoffed. "She's just bitter because she couldn't keep up with me." The audience murmured, sensing tension building. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Grant, are you mocking your opponent, or do you actually plan on defending yourself with evidence?" Tyler crossed his arms, smirk never fading. "I don't need evidence. I have common sense. I mean, really, who brings something this petty to court? This isn't law, it's daytime TV. We're on a show, right? That means I should at least make it entertaining." He turned to the audience and gave an exaggerated bow. A few people chuckled nervously, unsure if they were allowed to laugh. Rachel's cheeks flushed with humiliation. Judge Judy's lips pressed into a thin line. The silence in the room grew heavy. "Mr. Grant," she said finally, her tone as sharp as broken glass, "I suggest you wipe that smirk off your face and start taking this seriously." But Tyler didn't. Instead, he leaned forward and quipped, "With all due respect, Judge, isn't sarcasm your thing? I mean, that's what you're famous for. So why can't I play along?" A ripple of shock passed through the room. Someone had dared to openly mock Judge Judy, to her face. The audience shifted in their seats, their anticipation rising. They knew they were about to witness something unforgettable. Rachel whispered under her breath, "He doesn't know what he's gotten himself into." And she was right. Because while Tyler thought this was just a game, just another chance to show off, he was about to learn that Judge Judy had mastered the art of verbal takedown long before he had even dreamed of stepping onto her stage. And her final words that day would not just silence his arrogance, they would end it completely. The air in the courtroom felt different now. The audience leaned forward in their seats, Rachel clutched her evidence folder tighter, and even the bailiff raised an eyebrow. Everyone knew that Tyler had just crossed a line few dared to approach. Judge Judy, however, didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her authority came from the silence that followed her words. Mr. Grant, she began slowly, her eyes piercing him, this is not a comedy club. This is my courtroom. You're not here to entertain the audience, you're here to answer for what you've been accused of. Tyler gave a dismissive wave, leaning casually against his podium. Yeah, I get it. I just think the whole thing is blown way out of proportion. Rachel's exaggerating. She's just mad that I didn't baby her through our little business project. Rachel's voice rose. Business project? Tyler, we had an actual company name, we had products, and we had customers. You took nearly $5,000 out of the account without asking me, and you spent it on things that had nothing to do with the business. She opened her folder and began pulling out papers. Here, look at the receipts. Look at the bank statements. It's all here. Judge Judy motioned for the bailiff to collect the papers. She glanced through them quickly, her trained eyes skimming the lines of numbers and transactions. She looked up at Tyler. Mr. Grant, according to this, you withdrew $1,200 in cash on the same day your so-called business partner filed an expense request for inventory. That's not just bad business, that's theft. Tyler chuckled, unfazed. Or maybe it's just me being smart enough to take my share before she wasted it all. I mean, come on, inventory? Who buys inventory before you know if you'll even sell anything? It's called being cautious. You're calling theft cautious? Judge Judy snapped. Tyler smirked, as if enjoying the sparring match. Well, I wouldn't call it theft. I'd call it strategic withdrawal. A few people in the audience chuckled again, though quickly stifled their laughter when Judy's sharp gaze swept across the room. Rachel's frustration boiled over. This is exactly what he does, Your Honor. He twists everything to sound clever, but it's all lies. He doesn't take responsibility for anything. Tyler shot her a mocking grin. Oh, responsibility. That's all I hear. Maybe if you weren't so uptight, Rachel, you wouldn't have dragged me onto TV for the world to see. But hey, I guess you like the spotlight too. Judge Judy tapped her gavel, not loudly, but enough to command silence. Mr. Grant, you are quickly running out of rope. Keep digging, and you'll find yourself hanging by it. Tyler leaned back, folding his arms across his chest. You know, Judge, everyone always talks about how tough you are. But honestly, I don't see it. You're just sharp with words. That doesn't scare me. The courtroom collectively gasped. Even Rachel looked stunned that he had said it out loud. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed to slits. Not scared, Mr. Grant, she asked, her voice like ice. Not at all, Tyler said proudly, puffing out his chest. In fact, I kind of enjoy it. I mean, you've built a whole career out of snapping at people. Isn't that what this show is really about? You get to be the star, and we all play along. Play along? Judy repeated, her tone incredulous. Yeah, Tyler said, nodding smugly. Play along. I mean, look around. Cameras, lights, an audience. This isn't a real courtroom, it's entertainment. And if I'm going to be here, I might as well give them a good show. His words echoed in the room, heavy with arrogance. Judge Judy sat back in her chair, studying him the way a lion studies prey, calm, deliberate, waiting for the exact right moment to strike. Rachel whispered, almost to herself, he doesn't get it. But Judy understood perfectly. Tyler wasn't just mocking her authority, he was mocking the entire idea of justice. He thought this was a stage, and he was the star. She leaned forward slightly, her eyes locked on him. Mr. Grant, let me explain something to you that you seem incapable of understanding. This is not a joke. This is not a stage. And you are not a comedian. You are a defendant, accused of stealing nearly $5,000 from someone who trusted you. And whether there are cameras here or not, my job is the same, to get to the truth and render judgment. Do you understand me? Tyler tilted his head, pretending to think. Then, with mock seriousness, he said, crystal clear, Your Honor. The sarcasm dripped from his voice like poison. Judy's lips curled into something that was almost a smile, but not quite. Good. Because the truth has a way of silencing clowns. The audience murmured again, some nodding, some whispering. Rachel finally spoke up, her voice trembling but firm. Your Honor, I trusted him. I let him live in my apartment rent-free because he said all his money was going into the business. I believed in him. And he used me. This isn't about entertainment, it's about betrayal. Judge Judy nodded, her face softening briefly as she looked at Rachel. I understand. And that's why we're going to sort this out properly. Then her gaze snapped back to Tyler, sharp as ever. Mr. Grant, unless you have actual evidence to dispute these documents, you are going to lose this case. Do you have anything at all, to support your claims? Tyler shrugged, his smirk faltering just a little. Well, no, but... No buts, Judy interrupted. Evidence wins cases, not arrogance. And right now, you have none. For the first time since he had entered the courtroom, Tyler looked uneasy. The smirk wavered, his confident posture slouched ever so slightly. The audience noticed. Rachel noticed. Judge Judy noticed. The tide was turning. But Tyler wasn't ready to give up his act just yet. Fine, he said, trying to regain his composure. If I'm going down, I'm at least going down entertaining people. Because let's face it, nobody's here for the paperwork. They're here to see you rip into people. That's the real show. Judge Judy leaned back, tapping her pen against the bench. You're right about one thing, Mr. Grant. Tyler raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh yeah? And what's that? Her voice was steady, calm, and chillingly final. They're here to see justice. And they're about to see exactly that. The audience erupted in murmurs again, sensing that the end of Tyler's arrogance was near. Rachel let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. And Tyler? For the first time, his smirk was gone completely. The courtroom had shifted. The smirk that Tyler wore so proudly when he strutted and had slipped away, replaced by the faintest shadow of doubt. Rachel sat straighter now, her voice no longer trembling. She could sense what the audience sensed too. Judge Judy was circling, waiting for the exact moment to pounce. But Tyler wasn't finished, not yet. Okay, he said, running a hand through his hair. Maybe I don't have receipts or bank statements or whatever. But I don't need them, because this whole thing is ridiculous. Rachel knew the risks. She knew I was in charge of the money. If she didn't like how I used it, that's on her. She should have been smarter. Judge Judy's eyebrows shot up. Smarter? You mean smarter than trusting you? A ripple of laughter burst from the audience, quickly dying down as Judy raised her hand. Tyler's ears turned red. I'm just saying, she can't play the victim here. She went along with everything until it didn't go her way. Then suddenly I'm the bad guy? That's not fair. Fair? Judge Judy repeated, leaning forward. Let me tell you what's not fair. What's not fair is pretending to start a business, convincing someone to trust you with their savings, and then siphoning that money off for personal luxuries while they're left scrambling. That's what's not fair. Rachel nodded vigorously. Exactly, Your Honor. That's what he did. I worked extra hours at my day job just to make this happen. I sacrificed. He didn't. Tyler rolled his eyes, but his voice cracked just slightly when he said, She's exaggerating. Judy caught it instantly. No, Mr. Grant. What you're doing is minimizing. There's a difference. And I've seen your type more times than I can count. You think charm, sarcasm, and a smirk will distract from the truth. But it won't, not here, not today. The silence after her words was heavy, almost electric. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, but then tried one last tactic, humor. Look, Judge, I get it. You want to make me the villain. That's fine. But at the end of the day, this was just a failed business venture. Nobody died. Nobody got hurt. Worst case, she lost some money, which, let's be honest, wasn't even that much. Rachel's jaw dropped. Not that much? It was all I had. Judge Judy slammed her gavel once, not in anger but in finality. Mr. Grant, I strongly suggest you stop talking, because every word you say only makes your case worse. But Tyler couldn't help himself. Come on, Judge. It's just money. You act like I committed a crime. Her eyes flashed. It is a crime. It's called fraud. And if you pulled this stunt in a real courtroom instead of on television, you wouldn't be smirking, you'd be facing criminal charges. The words hit him like a slap. His mouth opened, then closed again. For once, he had no witty comeback. Rachel glanced at him, satisfaction flickering in her eyes. For months she had felt powerless, manipulated, and belittled by Tyler's arrogance. Now, finally, he was shrinking under the weight of someone who saw straight through him. Judge Judy leaned back, folding her hands. You see, Mr. Grant, people like you think the rules don't apply to them. You think you can outtalk, outsmirk, and outmaneuver everyone around you. But in my courtroom, there's nowhere to hide. You can't spin the truth, because the truth doesn't bend for your ego. The audience applauded softly, then quieted when Judy raised her hand again. Tyler cleared his throat. Look, maybe I made mistakes. But I didn't mean. Stop. Her voice cut through his sentence like a blade. This isn't about what you meant. This is about what you did. And what you did was take money under false pretenses. You promised it would be used for your business venture. You lied. You spent it on yourself. That's not a mistake. That's deliberate. Rachel whispered, "Thank you," almost inaudibly. Judy nodded toward her before focusing back on Tyler. Now, you may think mocking me makes you clever. You may think disrespecting this courtroom makes you bold. But I'll tell you what it really makes you, small. A small man with small values who thought he could outsmart everyone around him. But today, you're not outsmarting anyone. Today, you're exposed. Tyler swallowed hard. His cocky posture sagged. His eyes darted toward the audience, but instead of admiration, he saw disapproval. Instead of allies, he saw witnesses. Judge Judy leaned forward again, her voice quieter but sharper than ever. Tell me, Mr. Grant, what exactly have you gained by mocking this court? By mocking me? Did it win you friends? Did it win you respect? Or did it just prove, in front of everyone, that you can't take responsibility for your own actions? Tyler's lips parted, but no words came. The silence stretched. The audience watched with bated breath. Rachel's hands shook as she held her folder, but for the first time that day, they were shaking from relief, not fear. Finally, Tyler muttered, I don't know. Judy's voice dropped even lower. You don't know. That's the first honest thing you've said since you walked in here. The audience murmured in agreement. Judy straightened, tapping her pen on the bench. Well, I know. What you've gained is nothing. What you've lost is credibility, dignity, and, once I rule, money. Because let me be crystal clear, you're paying her back every penny you took. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of relief. For so long, she had worried her voice wouldn't matter, that Tyler would twist everything until she looked like the fool. But Judge Judy had cut through the lies with surgical precision. Tyler's shoulders slumped. The fight was gone. But Judy wasn't finished yet. Not by a long shot. She leaned forward one last time, eyes locked on him like a hawk. And when I'm done, Mr. Grant, you'll realize something else. You thought mocking me gave you power. But words are a weapon I wield far better than you ever will. And my final words today? They'll be the ones you remember for the rest of your life. The audience erupted in applause, sensing the climax was near. Rachel pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed. And Tyler, once cocky, once smug, once untouchable, sat frozen, knowing the storm he had invited was about to strike. The room was silent except for the faint scratching of Judge Judy's pen as she signed the ruling papers. Tyler shifted uneasily, his earlier bravado replaced by something closer to panic. Rachel sat with her head bowed, hands clasped together tightly, waiting for the moment she had been dreaming about for months. Finally, Judy looked up. "Mr. Grant," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "you thought this was going to be entertainment. You strutted in here like you were auditioning for a late-night comedy show. You mocked this court, you mocked your opponent, and you mocked me. And for a while, you thought that smirk of yours would protect you. But smirks don't win cases. Facts do. Evidence does. And in this courtroom, justice does." The audience murmured in agreement, hanging on to every syllable. Judy turned to Rachel. "Ms. Adams, you presented receipts, bank statements, and testimony that all align. There's no question that the money was misused. You have been wronged, and today you get your justice." Rachel's eyes welled up. She whispered, "Thank you," her voice trembling with gratitude. Then Judy's gaze snapped back to Tyler. Her eyes burned with the kind of intensity that stripped away every last ounce of his arrogance. "You, Mr. Grant, are a con artist. Not a clever one. Not a sophisticated one. Just a petty little hustler who thought he could outtalk the truth. But here's the thing about the truth, it doesn't bend. It doesn't break. And no matter how many jokes you crack, no matter how many smirks you flash, it always comes out." Tyler opened his mouth, perhaps to defend himself one last time, but Judy raised her hand sharply. "No. You've said enough. More than enough. And every word you spoke only confirmed what I already knew, that you are guilty of deception, arrogance, and a complete lack of integrity." The audience clapped softly, unable to hold back their approval. Judy raised her voice slightly, her words ringing with finality. "I find in favor of the plaintiff. Mr. Grant, you are ordered to pay Ms. Adams the full amount of $4,800. And let me add this, if you ever think about mocking a courtroom again, I suggest you remember today. Because words may be your toy, but in this arena, they are my weapon. And I wield them to defend justice, not egos." The audience erupted into applause, this time louder, more certain. Tyler's face drained of color. The smirk was gone completely now, replaced by a grimace that looked almost childlike. He shifted his weight, staring at the floor, refusing to meet Rachel's eyes or the cameras that captured his downfall. Rachel, on the other hand, was glowing, not with triumph over him, but with relief. She finally had her voice back. She finally had justice. Judge Judy tapped her gavel once. Case closed. The bailiff announced the decision, and the cameras zoomed in on Judy's face. Her eyes were steady, her expression firm. She had done what she always did, cut through arrogance, stripped away excuses, and left only the truth standing. Tyler stumbled out of the courtroom, his swagger gone. The audience whispered as he passed, some shaking their heads, others smirking at the irony of it all. For once, the Joker had been the punchline. Rachel stayed behind for a moment, gathering her things. She looked up at Judy and said softly, "I can't thank you enough." Judy gave her a small nod. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You stood up. You spoke out. That takes courage. Don't ever let someone like him make you feel small again." Rachel smiled through her tears. "I won't." The audience began filing out, buzzing with conversation. They knew they had just witnessed something special, not just another episode, but a lesson. A reminder that arrogance collapses in the face of truth, and that respect isn't optional in Judge Judy's courtroom. As the cameras faded out, Judy leaned back in her chair, jotting down a few final notes. Another case, another takedown. But for Rachel, this wasn't just another case. It was closure. And for Tyler, it was a humiliation he'd never forget. Later, outside the courthouse, reporters asked Tyler what he thought about the ruling. His answers were short, defensive, and stripped of his earlier wit. It was unfair. She didn't give me a chance. The whole thing was staged. But even as he spoke, he knew nobody believed him. The internet lit up within hours. Clips of Judge Judy's final words circulated online, with headlines like, "Judge Judy silences arrogant defendant with brutal final words. Man mocks Judge Judy, regrets it instantly. Smirk wiped off his face in courtroom takedown." Viewers around the world applauded the way she had handled him. Comments flooded social media. "This is why you don't mess with Judge Judy. He thought he was funny." She reminded him this wasn't a game. Rachel got her justice, and he got what he deserved. Rachel watched the clips too, but not for the attention. She watched because it reminded her of something powerful. She had stood up for herself. And she had won. For Tyler, the humiliation lingered. His friends teased him, strangers recognized him on the street, and his reputation never recovered. The smirk that once felt like armor now felt like a scar. But for Judge Judy, it was just another day. Another arrogant defendant, another sharp takedown, another victory for truth. Her final words echoed long after the cameras stopped rolling. "Words may be your toy, but in this courtroom, they are my weapon. And I wield them to defend justice, not egos." It was the sentence that ended Tyler's arrogance once and for all. And everyone who witnessed it knew they'd seen something unforgettable.